episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 9, Episode 5.
Or Episode 195 if you're counting.
I have no idea whether or not we actually have audio coming in. Let's
yeah.
Yes, we do!
Yes!
Yay! Okay, great. So
All
you
right.
got Echo back for just a second, but...
For just a second, but you didn't hear anything. You hear us right now. Welcome to the show.
Yay! And I have no idea whether or not you actually heard the intro, because it showed here that... Ooh, the lines are jumping, and you got music, and it's going. And the other day, I had done a whole bunch of stuff so that my audience could hear music, but I couldn't while I was editing video. That's how we got here. So, cool. Yay. You heard the intro. Okay, so we don't have to do any extra editing later. That's great.
We don't have to fix it in post. It's fine live. We got this. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
It's been at least like the better part of a year since we tried to do a show. Yeah, it's been hard. It's been super hard, and I've had to rebuild this set, and it's so super bare bones right now.
It cost us so much money to do this.
Yeah, I threw it together in an hour. So it needs
literally.
Oh my god.
We're doing it live, folks.
Everything is going wrong. Everything is terrible right now, but that's okay.
So you'll notice we've done some upgrades. The background's a little more blue. Siren's a little more fast and needy. Kaylin's a little more blonde than she used to be. So yeah, it's a lot of things going on here. I'm still the same, somehow.
Kind of,
mostly.
Mostly, except now we're in California, which we did do a show or two in another location in California before. We've been out here a year now. We're in a new location now, and we're in a space that is better conducive to doing a live show for ourselves. We can actually put up the lights we want. We can actually put up the green screen that we want. So it can only improve from here, really.
Yes.
So I hope. I really, really hope. But I mean, what else is new with us then, other than just what you can see right here?
So you know how like you play Pokemon Go still?
From time to time, yeah.
From time to time?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you remember how last weekend we tried to play Kamen Rider Go out here in Anaheim and it just didn't work?
No, I don't. I don't know what you're talking about.
We tried to catch a Kamen Rider?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. We tried.
How about you actually say what we actually did, because I don't really know what you're talking about.
Okay, one thing that's still the same is she still sucks at banter. Okay, so what happened last week is there was an event out here called, what was it called again?
You don't even know.
I know we were there.
It was Kara Expo. It was hosted by Bushiroad, so they had a whole bunch of like the Vanguard and Buddy Fight card games, and they had
the little girls you like to play with.
Josh, why would you say that?
You like to play with them. They're on your phone with the rhythm game. The little girl. Some of you might play the game. What's it called?
Well, one of them is Love Live, but they weren't really pushing Love Live. Love Live.
I mean, I love Lime. I love Lemon Lime.
They were pushing Bang Dream, which is the little girls that actually play their own musical instruments.
And I already told you last week, Little Girls and Bang Dream does not sound good together.
No,
they made that decision. I didn't.
Well, age of consent is younger in Japan. Anyway.
Oh my god. But they also had a lot of New Japan wrestling stuff, which is pretty cool.
Bushiroad hosts New Japan.
They support them every week.
It's pretty intense. It was pretty intense.
We got to see some matches. That was pretty cool.
Thank you for the cheer and the host, John.
But along with that, we found out, like, the last minute, that they were having this gallery of photos from Takeru Sato. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with him, Takeru Sato played the role of Ryotaro, the main character there on Kamen Rider Den-O. He also played Kenshin in the Rurouni Kenshin live-action trilogy. So, you know, kind of a big name to announce.
Right.
And they left it very nebulous on his website and the press release that, hey, he may or may not be there. So we went down there to investigate whether or not Takeru Sato was actually going to show up in Anaheim.
Right.
And in the entire time we were down there for like, what, 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that?
The majority of the day,
The majority of the day, we got 3 different answers from people as to whether or not he was there. The first person said he wanted to come, but he couldn't make it. The second person said he's here, he's just not here at the booth. And the third person was like, what are you talking about? I'm just volunteering. So we don't know if he was actually out here.
We really don't.
we were trying to find him. We circled that place I don't know how many times looking for him, asking people. Nobody seemed to know what was going on. There were a few people who apparently did find out online, and they showed up wearing their Jiku drivers from Kamen Rider Geo. So some people found out about this, but we were talking about this last weekend. If they wanted to have him come out here, he's not nobody. He's a movie star,
right?
Now. And if he was going to show up somewhere, AX would have made more sense, where people would be like, oh, you were Kenshin, yeah, I'm totally there for that.
Sure.
Or for this most recent movie he did, Inuyashiki, based off the manga and anime adaptation, just barely went on Blu-ray. They were selling the Blu-ray there, but they weren't, showing it. Like, hey, this is a thing he's in. Wouldn't you like to purchase this?
Well, they also weren't pushing the newest movie he's in either. I don't even remember what the name of that movie is. Something Otoko... something or other.
Yes.
And they weren't pushing that in the slightest.
So, at the end of the day, we were a little disappointed by that. I mean, yeah, it was nice to see photos of him there. He's still very much keeping up with his health. Good for him. But I would have liked to have seen him in person. That would have made 2 Kamen Riders that I would have met within a year. But we didn't get that.
Right.
So, we just...
But we did watch wrestling.
We watched wrestling.
That was pretty friggin' entertaining.
Jushin Thunder Liger.
Yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger was on. What was the name of the dude who was like a rugby player?
They called him Coach. What was his name? God,
I don't remember. But he had funky something across his butt.
Funky Machine or something?
Funky Machine across his butt, and he just kept hitting the other dude with his butt, and then he won.
Yes.
So, he was great.
He beat ass with his ass.
Yes, exactly.
That's what he did.
So it was a good time, but Bushi Road needs some help. That was super loud on our end. Thank you, Destroyer Hero, for the sub.
Yes, much appreciated. Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, that's a thing. We'll talk more, because we're still going to do the post-show. For those of you who are new or coming back, you remember after we do this hour, you can talk to us for another 30 minutes for pretty much anything. Stuff we're watching, stuff we're interested in, things like that. We're finally watching anime again. That's good.
Kind of, a little bit.
What was the name? Bookseller Honda-san. We picked up this weekend, and we just blew through what they've got out.
Well, yeah, because they're all each only 15 minutes a pop, so...
Yeah, and of course we're watching SSSS Gridman. That's the jam. If you're not on that, get with it. Act like you want it. Yes. But we do have a show...
We do have a show.
Yeah, we have a show. First time in months.
Yeah, so we should talk about what our main stories are going to be once we get to those main stories. We're talking, of course, about the life of Stan Lee.
The legendary late, great Stan Lee.
Who sadly this past week passed away at the age of 95, so we're going to be discussing his life and his legacy and kind of moving forward. What does our community...
What does the world...
What do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do without him?
And then our second story is going to revolve around the first trailer. We've been waiting for it, and we finally got it for Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever. This is going to be the culmination of 20 years of the Heisei Kamen Riders. It's going to be very emotional from the way the trailer is depicting things. We're going to talk about that, things we're going to expect from that movie.
Thank you very much, Evan, for the cheer. And then finally, our third story was...
Can you detect what the third story was?
Okay. Thank you for the help.
Yes.
Detective Pikachu is a movie now, which we knew was going to happen, but then they dropped a trailer.
And it was good?
And the world went nuts, so we're going to be talking about this trailer, kind of looking at it and kind of analyzing it and seeing, could this be a good video game movie?
We're going to have to see.
We need to think about this.
We got to find out.
Until then, we've got... follow-ups.
Yes, we do.
We got a lot of follow-ups.
I missed this. Okay, so let's go ahead and start in our usual order. We start with comic book news first. So first off, we'll go ahead and start with things carrying over from the last time we spoke. I've been a pretty big critic of Gotham. It's finally ending!
Yay!
Yay! So that's no secret. We're just kind of backtracking over stuff that's gone on while we were out. They have said that this last season... in this last portion that they're calling Legend of the Dark Knight, they're introducing Bane into the story. He will break somebody's back, but
it's not Batman's back?
No, he's gonna break someone's back, not his.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I'm not sure how I feel about Bane. Like it's like they wanted to go for the Tom Hardy Bane, and then they stopped halfway and were like, you know what, that's good enough. You know, you're good. You got some like spare like phone parts, just paste it on there, you'll be all right. Now they have said in the very last episode there will be a time jump of 10 years, and we will in fact see Bruce as Batman suited up fully. For what that's worth, we don't know. It could be just like Smallville and it's literally the last second of the show, or we could have an episode proper. My whole thing is now, based off of what we're going to talk about in the next follow-up, can't we just have a proper Batman TV show? It's not like we can't. It's just all the things going on over at WB prevent that for some reason.
Because movies.
Because movies, I guess, because he's more profitable there.
They
but
decide
he could
they
be
need to
profitable
go.
here.
They decide they need to go nuts with their TV properties and keep it totally disjointed from their cinematic universe.
Well, that's actually dwindling now. Moving on to our second follow-up, which is involving the Elseworlds crossover over on the CW Arrowverse. So we've seen some promotional material. Here you'll see, strangely enough, Grant Gustin and Stephen Amell in the other person's costume. We don't know why this is happening in the crossover, but this is going to go down on December 9th for 3 nights, starting with Flash, then on Arrow on Monday, and then on Tuesday ending over on Supergirl. The Legends are sitting this one out this year.
Soundboard, thank you for the follow. We saw some pictures earlier this year of, was it Stephen Amell dressed in Flash?
Yes, which we do see here, but along with that, the super cool thing is that we got John Wesley Shipp back in the Flash suit. They've rebuilt the suit, and he will be reprising the Flash here in this crossover, which is super awesome. I grew up with that show, watched it all the time with my dad until they canceled it. It's great. But the other big thing, of course, is the announcement of the addition of Ruby Rose as Batwoman. So we are finally getting into Gotham territory. I think you got a picture of her in here somewhere.
I think it's one of these that I'm not sure which it is.
Well, we'll assume that you guys know what Batwoman looks like. Point being, it's really cool that we're seeing that. They've been dropping a lot of hints that, yes, Batman does exist in this universe somewhere. Superman's also going to be involved in the crossover. And we're starting to get there. I'm hoping that eventually we will get to a point where we can have Batman on the Arrowverse, but we're getting closer every day. Going on with the next bit of news, that just a couple of hours ago, they announced that Jon Cryer will be playing the role of Lex Luthor. We've had all the other Luthors possible on Supergirl, but now we will actually have Lex.
I've got that picture.
Yes, now it's interesting if you think back all the way back to the not-so-great Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Jon Cryer was in that as the nephew of Lex Luthor way back when, but now he is actually Lex. Now, honestly, I know him more, and most people know him for comedic acting. So this is kind of a stretch here, but I'm interested to see what they're doing.
Sure.
Because for the most part, the Arrowverse casting has been pretty on point. So I'm willing to see where they're going with this. Now, hopefully we'll see that. He'll be showing up on the 15th episode this season of Supergirl, so we got a ways to go before we see that.
But not too long.
But not too long. So we're going to see that sooner rather than later. Okay, so you had a picture of Pacific Rim earlier. This is going on to Netflix. Apparently, they are adapting Pacific Rim into an anime, which I'm absolutely all for. I'm here for canceling the apocalypse. Seeing Pacific Rim turned into an anime, it just makes sense. It loves Japanese kaiju fighting so much.
There we go, I've got that picture.
There's no word yet on when it's going to come out or what the cast is. We do know that the story revolves around a brother and a sister who are crossing country in a wrecked Jaeger trying to find their parents. So we got a little of a taste of that in this most recent Pacific Rim movie of people kind of piloting Jaegers that are a bit broken. So the audience that already likes Pacific Rim will be looking out for this and being like, yeah, I can buy that story.
Well, do you think it's going to get new people in? Because the second Pacific Rim movie didn't exactly bring in new people, I don't think. In fact, I think a lot of people were turned off by that film by comparison to the first one.
Well, admittedly, yeah, you don't have an auteur at the helm like Del Toro this time. He just executive produced because he was working on Shape of Water, but at least he got an Oscar for that.
Sure.
Over here, with Stephen DeKnight directing, yeah, it kind of felt the same, but some people were like, yeah, but there's not that that sense of scale, that grandioseness that came with it. But I still think it was a fun movie. There's plenty of room to keep telling these stories, and I think this is just evidence that they can see they can keep this alive at least long enough to see, hey, if this takes off, you can go ahead and keep going forward with that third movie, which they did set up.
Okay, cool.
So we've got that over there. Moving on to the next story. So Doctor Who has come back in this current season, played by Jodie Whittaker. She's been doing a great job here. You actually, this year for Halloween, you dressed up as the Doctor.
I did, yes. Was it this picture? I hope it... Nope, it wasn't
No, that wasn't it.
Found some other Elseworld stuff, though.
Yeah, Elseworlds will be a thing. But the other thing that's interesting for Doctor Who is not just that we have the first female iteration of the Doctor, but this year they're actually foregoing the Christmas special, and that's been a tradition for the last several years with the run of these new Doctors. Well, what they're doing is they're shifting it a couple of days, basically by a week, from Christmas to New Year's. So instead of a Christmas special, it's a New Year's special.
I know that upsets a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I mean, like a week? I don't know. Oh, thank you for the sub, soundboard. Super appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that. So I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of tradition for some people. Like, yeah, wake up Christmas morning and, you know, you open presents, you know, have a good lunch, and then, whoa, almost, wow.
Siren doesn't care about whether or not you've got tea there.
Yeah, she almost made a big problem. Okay, so the Doctor moving a couple of days, I don't think it's a big deal. A lot of people are very upset with that. I get where they're coming from, but for the most part, I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, people thought they were going to be upset over Jodie Whittaker, and by and large, most people are actually very happy, very positive about her portrayal as the Doctor.
But the people that are not are very vocal.
Well,
Very loud.
They know where they can go stick it.
They're shouting into the void mostly, but
Into
they're
the
shouting.
void mostly. But you know what? They'll deal with it. Okay, so moving on to the next story. So the Game Awards were just announced
They were,
a couple
yes.
of days ago. A couple of top seats are going. People are hoping Spider-Man. Sony Spider-Man's going to take the top thing. You just finished the game. I'm still in the final stages of it.
Sure.
Yuri Lowenthal is up for Best Performance.
It's a very good performance.
And I'm starting to see it, because I just got to the part, for those of you who... I don't think it's really spoilery. He's been poisoned by Scorpion, and he's having this kind of dream sequence that's actually very reminiscent of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. The way you're having to traverse his mind there.
Right.
But the acting there, the pain, and like, no, Otto, I'm your friend. I've always been your friend. I'm trying to help you. I felt that there.
Yeah.
And I really, the whole cast is doing a great job, but really, him as Spider-Man, I think there was an Instagram post I saw about a couple of weeks ago where somebody pointed out, no, if you take the three Spider-Man, you take Tobey Maguire, you take Andrew Garfield, and you take Tom Holland, and you mush all their faces together, that's how they got this Peter's face.
That kind of makes sense.
And
I was
they
like,
did a comparison.
I kind of see some of the other actors in this face, and it does make sense.
People noticed it right away about the costume, and you can also see it in the face. So it's like, that's why he's, by and large, a lot of people are saying that's Spider-Man right there.
Sure.
Like, this is him. Like, we don't need another we want another Spider-Man game. Give us another Spider-Man game.
Right.
Like, I really do hope it takes the top spot. And of course, there is my bias. Best ongoing game. I still want Overwatch to win. But of course, people are saying it's going to be Fortnite.
I bet it will be. It's just way too popular.
Yeah, but I'm not... I couldn't get into it. You tried once, right?
Oh yeah, I tried a grand total of one time, and I got children yelling at me to come join them at some place and then dance for their video that they were gonna put on YouTube.
And then you were out.
And then I left, and that was it.
Now, related to this, going into the next story, is actually, if we're talking about video games, we sometimes talk about E3.
Right.
What's interesting here is that a year out, pretty much several months out, Sony has already announced that they will skip next year's E3.
Like, this is over half a year early that they're announcing
At
this?
least 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, one, that's way ahead, and two, you guys got nothing?
No, I don't think it's that they have nothing. People are arguing it's either that they have nothing or they've got the PS5. They're developing the PS5, which has been rumored. They're working on the PS5. They're working on the PS5. We don't know any of the stats about it. People keep trying to drop. Look at these stats that just leaked on 4chan, guys. Come on now. Come on now. Nobody leaks things on 4chan. You guys get fooled every single time, but I do think that it's entirely possible that they are developing something.
See, I'm over here thinking, like,
They're gonna make their own show.
If they did have the PS5, why not just use that to dominate E3?
Because they could just ignore E3 and be like, hey, we've got the PlayStation experience and we're gonna dominate all on our own.
Now, some people have been saying that they're maybe adapting their approach to more of a Nintendo way, where everything's just a direct. We'll just have our own mini press conference away from everything, which could eventually kill E3 if everybody's just doing their own thing separate and they're not all coming together under one roof.
I think there'll still always be an E3, because, I mean, E3 is a whole heck of a lot more than just Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. It's a lot more than that. It's all these other studios, all these other indie developers. They're coming in to show off their games, and it doesn't have to be during those 3 conferences. Nintendo already is like, hey, we just show a video of what we like. We don't put people in a room together to look at it. Like, they already do that, so.
Okay, and then moving on to some other video game stuff, and John, you're actually right on that. So Final Fantasy 15 was set for at least 3 more DLC packs.
4 more.
4 more DLC packs, expanding on the story for some other side characters, and people were very much looking forward to this, but unfortunately that's just not going to be happening anymore.
3 out of 4 of those DLC packs are no longer happening, and then on top of that, director Hajime Tabata decided went and quit Square Enix. This was all to the tune of just recently Square announcing they lost $33 million this past year, and that was largely due to their Luminous projects, which the Final Fantasy 15 was developed on. So, and Tabata says, hey, I'm gonna go make my own company and I'm gonna go make my own games. I don't know if that sounds like he had internal pressure to leave, or if he really was just like, nah, it's my time to go. It's hard to say.
Well, it could be, because entirely Tabata got basically a babysitting mission of, hey man, like, we had this thing, the last babysitter, all he did was draw fan art all day and have all these wild ideas. Can you actually watch the kids, our 4 kids here in the car? Can you do that? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Okay, but we need you to stay overtime. Oh god, how much longer are we gonna do this? Another 4 hours. You get 1 more hour out of me and I'm out. Yeah. Alright? That's all you're getting. That's how I see this going down.
Okay.
So, maybe we'll actually get a 16 started.
Maybe, but I don't know, because they're still so focused on making Final Fantasy VII Remake actually exist. I don't know how. I really, really don't, because Tetsuya Nomura is still focused on getting Kingdom Hearts 3 out the door and actually doing it on time, and he's just not working on 7 Remake. So
he's just not.
Square's kind of eating it right now.
So moving on to some other things kind of related to video games. So Paul W.S. Anderson, who worked on all of the Resident Evil movies with his wife there in the lead, Mila Jovovich, is working currently on the movie adaptation of Monster Hunter.
Because of course he is.
Because of course he is. He pretty much blatantly said, hey, I love this because there's no real main character, so it was kind of really easy to add my own characters, which he has done, and he's doing the same thing here, where Mila Jovovich will be the lead in this.
He likes his self-inserts.
I guess so, but the thing that people are kind of complaining about is the fact that all of the pictures that have been coming out of Monster Hunter thus far, about 99% of the pictures coming out are of the military. So we see our main characters there.
Because you know Monster Hunter for its military aspect.
Yeah, our United States military aspect. Like, I don't get what's up with that. Now, they do say they are staying true to the monsters of the movie. He did go on record as saying, look, we didn't need to design monsters. There's so many monsters in this thing, and we pick and chose which ones that we were going with. Now, he didn't cite which ones specifically, just that the monsters will be recognizable. So at least they've got that. But until we see some monsters in action, until we see somebody crafting some armor, until I see a little kitty helping me out.
Me out?
Oh my god. Until we see that, I'm not going to feel good about this. Now, admittedly, I will go on record as saying the Resident Evil movies are a guilty pleasure. I know they're crap, but I still watched them anyway.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, you want the thing that's not good for you.
Okay.
So that's that for me. But here, it's just like, no, I really like Monster Hunter. Like, I'm okay with Resident Evil. I like Monster Hunter. So I don't want it to suck.
See, it's always different when it's your franchise, isn't it?
No, it is different when it's my franchise. Absolutely. Yes, it does come off as like kind of Bayformers-ish. Like, oh, we're not starting off on the right foot. This is gonna be weird. So yeah,
the alternate universe hopping, kind of like Super Mario Brothers.
See, that's the thing that also, like, I guess we'll talk a bit about video game adaptations here, is like they're doing that same thing from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Sure.
Where we have our world, and then the characters get transported to the video game world, or their version, their alternate dimension.
Why can't it just take place there?
Yeah.
Why can't this just be, this is a fantasy world? No, we gotta tie this into, we have to ground this in reality somehow.
Stop trying to do, and that's one thing, getting ahead of ourselves, that we'll give credit to Detective Pikachu about, but I don't want to get that far ahead. And then the last thing, so we mentioned before that we're watching SSSS Gridman right now, and of course Ultraman Rube is airing right now over there in Japan. So Subaraya has actually been cracking down on people making fan art, fan things, making money off them, and they've set forth these ground rules about what you can do about that, actually trying to police fan art and things of that nature, which I think is kind of a dumb move. They've been making these weird moves ever since they started airing the first, or was it the first two? Or was
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure it was the first episode of Ultraman Rube. Everybody could see it worldwide on YouTube, and then they took it down, and then they never put it back up, and then people have had to resort to piracy.
It's not that they took it down. It's that they region locked it.
So why they decided to do that, we don't know. Now, for what it's worth, as far as Gridman is concerned, they took a very interesting approach in that, look, you guys are making all this thirsty art out here. We don't like it. We don't like you making money off it. We'll do it for you. And they're putting out these body pillows of the two main female characters, even I gotta admit, that's a bit much, what they've got them not wearing.
Oh my god. Like,
have you seen these?
No, I haven't.
No, these are official licensed Subaraya body pillows of the main characters, and it's...
Their character art?
Yeah, like official.
Okay, so, but it's not the actresses.
No, it's not the actresses, it's the characters. These high school girls wearing very little. And I'm just over here like, can I just buy the toys off you yet? Can we do that? Like, I don't need the body.
Are you in the United States? No.
I mean, you can pre-order the action figure set off of Amazon though, internationally.
Okay.
So that is a thing you can do. It's expensive though.
It always is. You're trying to import.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Okay, cool.
But yes, that's all our follow-ups. Let's go ahead and get started with this heavy story first. The late great Stan Lee. So we had talked about this for years on the show, that we knew this day was going to come. And
he was 95, and if you ask me, that's an amazing legacy, an amazing amount of time, and he got to do everything, and he was so happy doing his job of obviously basically founding Marvel and starting this line of comics that would just span decades and touch so many lives, and he kept doing it until he couldn't anymore. He never quit. At no point did he quit his job.
No, he was active up until the last couple of months, where he finally had to step back and be like, hey, I can't make these convention appearances, but I'm gonna make it up to you. He was very much showing that he wanted to be in the fandom, an ever-present force there, and people loved him for that.
Yeah, he loved his job. His job.
And the thing of it is, you know, we just came to, I don't want to say take him for granted, but we just got so used to him, because he was always there constantly. Ever since, really what really kicked it off for a lot of people were the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, but you think back even further, he's been doing it since the 80s, since The Incredible Hulk. What started it for me was actually when they drew him in to the last episode of Spider-Man the Animated Series, where he has that opportunity to go web-slinging with Spider-Man and be like, oh, this is great! You know, actually getting to experience it for himself. And then, of course, showing up in the X-Men movies as a cameo. And then, of course, onto the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Showing up in Hero Man. Because
that's a manga
and anime that somehow he allowed himself to get involved with in some way, tied into Marvel, taking place in the United States, and so he got anime cameoed in there.
And on top of that, you know, a lot of people were talking about this past week, about just how much we kind of owe him, because yes, he had a hand in the creation of some of the most notable, if not the most notable characters out there. You know, Spider-Man, Daredevil, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, all of these notable characters that have been turned into these mega franchises, except Fantastic Four. And at this point, you know, everybody knows who these characters are, but you think about it, if he doesn't invent Spider-Man, Toei doesn't talk to him in the 70s. They don't invent Japanese Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Japanese Spider-Man never gets a giant robot. That never gets put into Super Sentai. That doesn't evolve into what is eventually bought by Saban and turned into Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's this whole line of events that happen because this guy created something in the 60s that affected generations.
Absolutely.
And the thing about it is generational, because he had this long, very fulfilling life. You know, 95, I wish I get to 95. I could, if I'm so lucky. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he's able to do that, like, oh, me, my kid, and my grandkids, we all love your work, is something he would hear all the time at conventions.
Sure. Multi-generational for certain.
And yes, he did actually have that cameo in Teen Titans Go. Now, that sounds like he recorded it off his phone, but it's the fact that he was like, I don't care if this is a DC movie, I love cameos! Like, yeah, that's who he was. That's who he was to us. Like, when I got the news earlier this week, it was just like, I felt like a relative died, you know?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because the thing about it is, he, like I was saying, he put himself so much out there. He was always very approachable by most people, like, even though you can't hardly get to him with all the crowd of people trying to get an autograph or talk to him or whatnot. But just, you know, the outpouring of not just fan support, but the people whose careers he's essentially responsible for. Hugh Jackman, for one thing, wouldn't have a career in movies if it weren't for him inventing the X-Men.
That's very true, yeah.
Because up to that point, you know, he's just this kind of good-looking theater guy, but then he gets Wolverine, and then
he's a blockbuster movie star.
Exactly. Sure. And, you know, he was talking about that on Colbert earlier this week, and of course, the main 6 Avengers took out a full-page ad thanking him this week for everything that they've gotten to take part into. You know, Robert Downey Jr. saying, you helped rebuild my career by inventing Iron Man.
Yeah. And I was seeing, we're friends with a few people, for example, in Japan, and Mr. Sakai, who we met up with earlier this past month, who is a writer who worked, if you saw Batman Ninja, for example, he was one of the producers of Batman Ninja, and he had, of course, was feeling very sad about the loss of Stan Lee, and he's a very big American comics fan. They call them Amekomi, American comics.
That makes sense.
But across the world, like, this is not just an American phenomenon. Mind you, a lot of his characters, he loved New York so much. They all kind of lived in New York.
Most of them, yeah.
And I think he, at one point, said that he considered New York to be its own character, too.
Yes.
Because that's where he was from, that's what he knew. Yeah, it's what he knew. He loved New York. But despite so much of it happening in New York, it just had such global reach. Still does, and it's still going to, because how many Marvel films do we still have coming up? Do we count into the Spider-Verse, whatever?
Well, okay, as far as cameos go, so people...
Well, I'm not even necessarily talking about cameos. I'm talking about...
Just in general?
In Marvel movies coming out.
We have at least 4 coming out that we know of, that have already been in the can or are being filmed right now, because we got Into the Spider-Verse.
Thank you, BoobTube Gaming, for the cheer. Appreciate it.
Of course, they did confirm he already filmed his cameo for the next Infinity War installment, so that's already covered. We don't know whether or not he was going to show up again in Deadpool 2, this new cut that's coming out next month.
Again, not even talking about his cameos, but I mean,
just stuff that he had going. Like, he had his hands in so many things. You know, and you're just bringing up movies. That's not counting other comic books. That's not counting TV shows. All of these other things coming together. If the streaming service starts their own stuff that they're going to be doing with Falcon and Bucky, or with Loki or Scarlet Witch, all of these things coming out because he created or helped create all of these worlds, all of these characters. I mean, there are very few people where it's like once they go, you're like, no, there's a vacuum now. You can try and do your
Sure.
best, but you can't match that.
No, but especially because, Marvel's been working in conjunction with Disney, there's no getting rid of Marvel at any point in the near future. It is in the public consciousness so hard, and it was Marvel that published Star Wars comics also,
Yes.
right? So, and then Disney's got Star Wars. So long as Disney has its grip on all of these properties, Stan Lee, made Marvel what it is, and so you wouldn't have Star Wars and Marvel Comics. Man, what else has come out in Marvel? Transformers and G.I. Joe had Marvel Comics. Now, mind you, Stan Lee didn't create those characters, but you wouldn't have a Marvel Comics at all without Stan Lee.
Well, it's the thing of it is, like, once he became the editor-in-chief, once he became just the figurehead, the generalissimo, as he called himself, then he transcended just being the guy who wrote.
Right.
Then it becomes this whole other thing of like, no, he was such an advocate of making sure that people knew that comics were accessible not just to kids but to adults. That's why a lot of the stories that he started telling throughout Spider-Man, throughout Black Panther, throughout X-Men, showing the humanity in the characters. Yeah, they might have super abilities and powers, but they're people at the end of the day.
Sure.
He wrote that for him, Peter Parker is a reflection of himself. He had money troubles. Peter had money troubles. He wasn't exactly the most popular with the ladies. Neither was Peter. And he wanted to address social issues. That's pretty much the crux of what starts X-Men. Talking about that, inventing such a major character of color in Black Panther, like all of these things coming together, and now seeing that come to fruition here with Black Panther earlier this year, and there's still talk now that they might be going for that Oscar gold.
I hope they do. I legitimately hope that they do, because this world needs for a movie like Black Panther to get an Oscar.
But you think about that mess, like, how many people nowadays take for granted that they know the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility"? Like, that's just in there now.
Sure.
Like, they haven't actually said it in the MCU, but everybody knows that quote.
And they knew that they didn't need to say that quote because we've heard it so often.
Yeah, like, they kind of touch on it, but they never fully have to say it.
They
But the
don't
thing about it
commit.
at this point, like, I don't know if they're going back for reshoots on Far From Home, but if they do, like, there's got to be something to that. Some extra little poignant thing that they can put on there. Now, as far as we know, we don't know whether or not he did, in fact, film a cameo for Spider-Man Far From Home. As far as I know, they're still working on that.
Yeah, it still
In
seems pretty
post.
early. Yeah.
So that could have been one of the other things that they coupled together, that they say he filmed a couple of them in a row because they knew his health was failing a couple of months back. So maybe they've already got that covered. But for the foreseeable future, this is what we got to deal with. So a lot of fans ask, well, where do we go from here? Pick up a comic book.
Sure.
Show people. Go back and read the old issues. Just because it's not the art you know now doesn't mean those stories aren't still important.
Go pick up a subscription to Marvel Unlimited and just start reading. There's 80 bajillion, like, I forget, they've like got a number, but I don't remember what that number is. But there's so many old comics that you can pick up by having an unlimited subscription. You pay, the $10 a month to get all this huge backlog of comics. It's really quite incredible. I've used it a number of times. It's really indispensable.
Yes.
That'd be a great place to start. And Marvel is not over,
No, it's not over by any means.
So, this is just going to keep going, and we're still going to have characters and stories that are influenced and touched by something that he has already started.
And for what it's worth, that's not to diminish the work of any of the people that he worked with. If it weren't for... Yeah, Stan did a lot of it, but if it weren't for Jack Kirby, if it weren't for Steve Ditko, a lot of these characters wouldn't have come into being.
That is
so
true,
it's the marriage of these two things together. He had a part in it. He's representative of Marvel, but he couldn't have done it alone.
That is very true. Nobody could.
And part of that is in lessons you learn in X-Men. You can't do it alone. The whole reason of the Avengers teaming up, you couldn't handle Loki alone. So, yeah, it's going to be super, super bittersweet when we get to Infinity War, because they're in post right now for this next sequel that we don't know what the title is yet. because this is going to be the one that's released, the live action one that we get. It's the first one we get after we've lost him.
Right.
And I guarantee you there will not be a dry eye in the house when that credit comes up, when he shows up on screen.
So and we're positive he's got a cameo for that one.
Proof positive. They already confirmed it.
Okay, and yeah, when he comes up, it's gonna be sad, and then they're gonna have to give the credit in memory of Stan Lee. Because that's just how that works.
That's just how it's gonna go. So for any of you guys watching right now who are already, like, let's be honest, most of us in here, if not all of us in here, are going to go see that movie once it comes out in May. But like, it's gonna be there. You stay.
Yeah.
And you pay your respects, because, like, he wasn't nobody.
No, he definitely was not nobody. He was the father to a lot of those characters, a father to a large portion of the industry, and just media in general.
Yes.
I would say that there's very few people who have not in some way been touched by his work, because he worked within not only comics, but, like you already mentioned, TV and film, animation, video games. His work reached really, really far just in media in general. So I think it's only fair that, yes, next year we do watch this final Marvel Avengers
for this
phase, and do it with respect and gladness that he was able to give us as much entertainment as he did.
Yes, so from all of us here at the show, Cat included, thank you for everything, Stan. You'll be missed. Excelsior.
Excelsior. And you're absolutely right. Captain Marvel is coming out before that.
You're right. So, yeah, that'll be the one where he did already film Captain Marvel. They did confirm that one, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's going to be heavy. So let's go ahead and move on to our second story, which is coming across a little bittersweet ahead of time, which is this first trailer that we've gotten for Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever. Now, first off, I want to go ahead and address the name. The fact that they're calling it Forever when we already had Final.
It's kind of weird, yeah.
Like, that kind of stuff happens. Like, we had Batman Forever, and then we got Batman and Robin. It's like, but you already called this one Forever. Forever sounds kind of... finite. Yeah, but here we go. So for this particular movie that we've got coming out here, the plot of the movie revolves around, of course, the characters in the currently airing series Kamen Rider Geo, which involves time travel. It's an anniversary show, so we've had a lot of a surprising number of returning actors reprising their roles from the show. We don't have replacement actors like we did in Kamen Rider Decade 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But the thing about this particular episode, or this particular movie, is that the story revolves around the time around the riders being literally jacked with, to the point that they are no longer existing in time the way we know them. Or actually, it's more like we know them because it's just a television show now.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually fight all of these evil organizations, stop all of these evil plots. We see that our main, who they're calling a super time jacker, called Chidu, or Tid, as some people are translating it, is going to go all the way back to Kuga, all the way back to the sarcophagus that was opened up and started everything there at the beginning of the Heisei era, and try and completely erase the Heisei Riders from history. So a lot of this, we don't know all of the people who are returning for this. We have seen a cast list, so we do know that, of course, we have Geo himself. We've got Build, the characters of Build, coming back for this. Mm-hmm. The 4 voice actors for the Tados, Momotados, Uda Kim Tados, Ryu Tados from Den-O.
All of them coming back.
Well, just the main 4, not Jeek or Deneb. They're not coming back for this.
Right.
But at least the main 4s, because we see that there is a Den-O, another Den-O, these kind of alt-looking monsters that are designed after the main rider, but they look kind of gnarly. We've got that. We've got Double, another Double. We don't know if anybody from Double is coming back yet, but we've got our fingers crossed, because for what it's worth, Toei's been doing a pretty good job of hiding who's coming back when.
Right. That's been pretty under wraps.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that they've been able to do this well. Like, we didn't know...
And the actors aren't talking.
No, we were surprised that Eiji was coming back for these past episodes of Geo, because they just barely told us, like, a couple of days out, like, hey, guess who's back? It's like, oh, snap! Like people... I remember, I go back, and just for my own sake, to feed off someone else's hype.
Sure.
I go back and watch the audience reaction there at the press conference for Heisei Generation's final, and people losing their minds when they see, oh, okay, it's cool that the suit's coming back, but then they confirm, no, we got Gakusano back, we got Sota Fukushi back, we got Shu Watanabe back, and Ryosuke Miyoda back, and they're just like, ah! Like, it was because it was mostly women, understandably so. And, you know, people are like, ah! Yes, O's Eiji, you know, he just came back for these last two episodes of Geo. And for the movie, we don't know who we're getting back. We do know because there was a people taking shots around what's going on. They haven't fully confirmed it, but Ghost will be coming back.
Okay, I mean, well, I don't know what he's doing with his life these days. I mean, I guess
he was doing a basketball movie.
Oh, okay. He's loud.
So the thing about it is, like I've said before, it's an interesting thing nowadays where, you know, over here when it comes to, like, say, Power Rangers, it's better now than it used to be. But, you know, if you were a Power Ranger, it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah, you're pretty much typecast as a Power Ranger for the rest of your life.
Whereas here, you know, you go on from being a common writer and you get a legitimate career.
Yeah.
You know, Sota Fukushi, he just did Bleach, and all these other adaptations. Takeru Sato, Hiro Mizushima, all these guys go on to do these major roles and do all of these other things and become really notable actors, and they're respected. And part of the way, the context of this movie is that there is a love and respect for these characters.
For sure.
Because you think about it, somebody who was, say, 10 when Kuga came out, they're 30 now. Mm-hmm. Like, they've had some time. They could have a kid of their own and be bringing them up on Rider.
Absolutely. I'm sure many of them are, in fact.
In fact, I think, I forget who it was we were talking to, but somebody said, with these past couple of movies with, like, O's Den-O, Let's Go All Rider, Let's Go Kamen Rider, and also with Heisei Generation's final, a lot of the people who were showing up were dads bringing their kids.
Right.
Like, I'm not just here for you, I'm here for me. Like, I grew up with these guys. So, you know, there's that love of the franchise, love of these characters, that they're learning these lessons about how to stand up against evil, how to be...
sharing it with your family.
And sharing it, and it becomes generational. You know, and that's part of the thing, Heisei Generations, because now it can be generational. Mm-hmm. Because you can take it for granted. Like, I got into the fandom in 2006, so right around Kabuto. And I just devoured as much as I could out of this thing, but I didn't really take into account that there were other people, because, you know, at the time, the fandom wasn't as big as it is now.
It really wasn't. And when you only had, like, one fan sub group that just kind of did whatever they want with the subs, then you get, like, a certain... you get certain kinds of people that
culture.
They were very insular. They kind of kept the fandom all to themselves. Makes it very difficult to grow a community when it's just so insular and it's not. Sometimes you think you're trying to grow a community by shouting catchphrases at somebody, and that just makes them kind of go, I don't know what they're talking about, and they're so aggressive about it, I don't want to know what they're talking about.
Which happens in a lot of fandoms.
It does. And Kamen Rider, unfortunately, was just so small that it was really struggling to grow a Western audience. Not to mention, Toei hates the West. So, that also didn't help. But I think that it has grown significantly now, and I think that as the years go on, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and something like this does become more and more important to people, even in the West as well.
Yeah, because at a certain point, you know, when you're sharing this stuff, there is something, you just kind of have to find the right hook, I guess is the way I want to phrase it. Because I've had that happen with some acquaintances, some conversations I've gotten into, where I've tried talking to them about it, but yeah, my approach was off. But once you find the common ground there, mm-hmm. then people are willing to watch. And once you get to that point, then everybody can just enjoy the thing.
Yeah.
And really, like, the ads for this are saying, this is made for people who look up to Kamen Rider, who love and respect Kamen Rider. This movie is for you. And it's like, oh, me? I mean, not me in the West, because they hate me. But, I mean, for you guys there in Japan, all of you with your kids buying the toys, like, yeah, this is for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, see all these toys right here? Buy this toy. All of this.
They all
purchase it.
They all already exist, too, so it's really easy.
And see, that's,
just go out there and buy them.
See, that's kind of the thing, and I'll stop on this so we can get to the next one, is that it's so simple. And I hate it, but I can't knock it. The fact that, like, hey, since we're telling the story, like, everything's actually a TV show like it really is, we don't need to make anything new. We can just show all the crap we already tried selling you.
It's all sitting in a warehouse right now.
Yeah, because they still have a Toys R Us warehouse. Just give us what you got. Just bring it over. We're gonna put it on a shelf in somebody's house.
Because mind you, they still have.
They still have Toys R Us's, and I'm jealous. But you know, they have all of those things. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to see this. I mean, it'll probably be the way it's been for those of us here in the West. We have to wait for somebody to provide in one way or another. But the thing of it is, I very much am looking forward to this movie because I feel like I'm the kind of fan that appreciates, like, no, you guys are taking the time and the love and the care into this one.
Sure.
It's not just random. Yeah, we got the suit back. That's all you really cared about, right? I mean, like, I do, but, like, I would appreciate if you were a little more careful with it. Like, that'd be great. And that's kind of the thing I'm getting from Gio with these, the returning actors coming back when they actually care to be like, oh yeah, I remember where he was at that time period. Let's write him like that.
Well, I mean, do you think that... I think some people are finding that the writing is suffering, perhaps for the sake of trying to get back the suits and the actors?
To a certain extent, I do get that. And I'm not saying that's not a thing, because it very much is. They addressed that in their 0.5 episodes. That this is a thing that we're kind of having to mess around with the characterizations because of scheduling for the actors, as well as we're bringing back writers from that series that we're focusing on, that episode, to kind of match.
Right.
But then some things are being sacrificed in the process. Hopefully that's not the case here for the movie, but I think they said this is like the 7th writer that will be working on this property since it started in October. So it's like
that is kind of nuts.
Good luck
so
on that.
I hope they have one overseeing director to make sure that once they get to the end of the whole thing, it makes sense.
Yes. Don't repeat Decade's mistakes. I love Decade, but I can't lie and say that there's not some problems. More than a few. He's my problematic fave.
There are many problems.
He's still my problematic fave.
I guess you're allowed.
I am allowed.
But I don't have to like it.
No, you don't. You just gotta...
Which I'm allowed.
You are allowed.
All right.
But I will get loud.
What?
Decade!
Ugh.
Okay, so that's that one. Let's go ahead and move on to our last story, which is a trailer that we knew was coming, and people were on the fence about this. We were on the fence reporting about it, which was Detective Pikachu. Now, of all things, I did not expect to see a trailer for this and think, I want to watch this.
Yeah, right? Like,
what's going on here?
It's so weird because I feel like there are things that I'm seeing in this trailer that are very true to Pokemon, which is amazing. It's exactly what we want, but also at the same time, I've got this conflicted feeling about, but stuff looks weird. The Pikachu, he's too fuzzy, and the Jigglypuff is too fuzzy, and the Mr. Mime has little hairs on the balding spot on his head, and Psyduck looks like he's gonna murder somebody, but at the same time, it's so Pokemon.
Well, that's the thing about it. Like, what we were saying earlier in the episode is that the one thing that right off the bat that you can say about this movie is that it just goes for it. Like, we're not going to say, oh, some kid accidentally, like, I don't know, got sucked into a video game.
He got sucked into his Game Boy, and he went through the link cable to another Game Boy.
Oh my god, link cable? Like, how old are you going here?
Trading.
98, jeez. This kid found... That's basically the plot to Jumanji, this most recent one. But they're not doing that. They're just like, no. You know what? We're gonna...
He lives here.
This is Pokemon world. This is just the world.
Rhyme City?
Yeah, Rhyme City. I was asking you. I'm not the Pokemon expert. Whether or not that's a real place.
I do not believe... But they've referenced Johto.
Yes.
So... like, they're referencing stuff in the... There's music playing in the trailer.
That... I recognize that.
Which is also music they directly used in the anime, the original anime soundtrack, before 4Kids decided, you know what, we need to stray from this format of actually directly translating our anime, and we need to give it our own script and goofy, plunky soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, I go back and I rewatch back to back the original season of Pokemon in Japanese with the 4Kids dub, and the first several episodes are like, wow, this is actually a really good adaptation. What happened not long after that?
It got popular.
It got popular. Regardless, now we've got, after all these years, after many a successful game, we just got the drop of Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Now we got the movie, and it could not have come at a better time to be in the middle of Pokemon hype, which really, every couple of years is new Pokemon hype.
Yeah, every time they release a new one, it gets rekindled. Like, you remember, like, for maybe about 3 to 5 days a couple of years ago, we had world peace.
Yeah.
Because Pokemon Go came out, and everybody got off their computers, they went outside, and then met people. And they caught Pokemon. Like, you remember what it was like.
Yeah,
it was glorious.
That was insane. That was a fantastic time to be alive.
Lord.
Yeah. Okay, so Rhyme City is in the Detective Pikachu game.
Okay.
So they're pulling directly from from the games. Obviously, I think that's fantastic.
And for what it's worth, you know what? Like, some people have said, Pikachu's kind of a mouse. He should be fuzzy.
I just don't agree, because we've seen him as this big yellow lump for 20 years, and I can't do it.
And some people have also pointed out, if you want to go old school with it, if you look really close at his stomach, he's got the little white patch.
They discolor his stomach, yeah.
Like Fat Pikachu,
yeah.
when the game first came out.
Old school Fat Pikachu. He's great. He's to that extent, he's great. And then we haven't even gotten to the voice acting.
So, as everybody should know in here, a big deal was made that the voice of this Pikachu, this Detective Pikachu, had to be Danny DeVito. It had to be. The internet has decided, we've spoken, he's gonna do it. And he was like, no.
Did you know, I saw on the news this past week, some people found, I think it was on their college campus, they found this gap in the wall,
yeah.
in the bathroom.
In the boys' room.
In the bathroom, and then they go in the gap in the wall, and there's this big, empty, abandoned room where there's a shrine in the corner to Danny DeVito that people just go there and they just leave offerings for
they'll like print out pictures. They've got candles. Like, it's meant to be creepy but funny. And, you know, I was never.
So that's how big people decided Danny DeVito needed to be.
Now, I don't know if that was actually like, oh, this is our sacrificial offering to make sure the gods make Danny DeVito voice Pikachu. I don't think it was that.
I don't know. I bet somebody did.
Maybe. But what we did end up with was Ryan Reynolds as the voice of Pikachu, something we were initially against when we reported this before, but he seems to be doing it.
Well, I mean, it could have been literally anybody, because I don't feel like Pikachu should talk, but that's how I felt when the game came out, too. Like, why is Pikachu talking? I felt the whole time like, oh, Pikachu really just shouldn't be opening his mouth and saying anything other than Pika Pika Pikachu.
Which they touch on here, that the main character here, played by Justice Smith, who some of you might have seen in this most recent Jurassic Park movie, or Jurassic World movie, he's the only one who can hear him speak English.
Yeah.
Everybody else hears the traditional voice line, the Pika Pika. So that's the workaround there. You can have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that at the end of the movie, everybody will hear him speaking English. Now, there is kind of a push because of Deadpool for people asking, can we hear Pikachu, like, curse?
No.
That's not a thing you get. No.
What they are actually asking for, and what they probably will get, is another Deadpool movie where they make fun of Pokemon. So
that will happen.
That is absolutely, I am 80% positive that will happen.
Yes.
So that is just an inevitability.
Now, I see some people talking about it here in the chat, and it's been brought up by you, but I will defend the way Psyduck looks, because Psyduck is one of my favorite Pokemon. So, you let him alone.
Yeah, let him alone, and let him look the way he's supposed to look. And not
he does look like the way he's supposed to look.
Not like he
he's
just
glassy-eyed.
came back from a Vietnam flashback.
He's supposed to look off. That's what a Psyduck is. Like, you can go ahead and evolve yours into Golduck, that way he looks a little more normal. I prefer Psyduck the way he is.
I get that he's supposed to be constantly having a migraine, but not like You're never too young to have a Vietnam flashback. Like, that's the look in his eyes, like he's constantly still seeing war in front of his face.
But you could love him.
I don't know if I could. I really don't know.
See,
And
like...
So there are all kinds of other Pokemon that are going on in the background of this trailer
Yeah,
here. We got like either Doduos or Trios. I'm not entirely sure. What was that?
Red
Lantern review. Thank you for that. Was a follow?
Yes.
Is that a follow?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, that Charizard looks pretty good. He's probably the best looking Pokemon to me.
Charizard looks like an actual dragon.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Okay, I mean, you're allowed. You're allowed.
Now, see, here's the thing I'm wondering about. Like, okay, we've got like base Pokemon. Are we gonna see like the what do you call the evolutions with the rocks, the gems, like the Super Charizard? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, if we're gonna see some of that in here, because a super boss-looking evolved Charizard, I'm here for that.
Now, hold on a second. We have to... This is not going to be a single movie. This is going to go off into a franchise, and we can't just
Mega Evolutions, yes, thank you.
We cannot go straight into Mega Evolutions. We cannot. We can't have Mega Evolutions in this movie. You've got to save them for another movie.
Now, for what it's worth...
As well as the Alola versions of certain Pokemon.
True. I'm just saying this. I don't know how they could finagle this to make it happen. I'm just saying, and some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Most of you should. If we get somehow because now I think it's on the table, a live-action adaptation of the fight between Magmar and Charizard, that would be tight. That would be some pimp stuff, and I would pay good money for that on IMAX.
You would see this IMAX.
Did you watch those episodes? Did you watch that episode?
Yeah, but like Pokemon is only
like
so much.
Top 5 anime fights is what I'm saying to you right now.
All right.
Like that fight with these graphics. With these graphics in this soft market.
In the year of our Lord.
It's
going to be 2019. All right.
Give it to me. I'll pay for that.
Put it in D-Box.
Yes, you put it in D-Box. Like, if we could actually have like a more proper Pokemon movie of somebody, not necessarily
IMAX
Ash.
4K D-Box.
IMAX
3D.
Fox only.
Final Destination.
Final Destination, because Pikachu's there. It's a thing.
Okay.
And yes, Greninja does look great as well.
I don't know. Greninja also looked pretty gnarly to me. Maybe people just want gnarly.
Would you prefer
stuff.
Lucario? He's supposed to be furry.
Yeah, he's supposed to be furry. That makes sense.
Okay, so you would be happy with seeing Lucario.
Yeah, I mean, like in that style, yeah, he would absolutely, he'd kill it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just holding out for Lucario then?
I mean, no. I don't really like Lucario. I just think he's best suited for this style.
I'm still waiting for Scyther. I
Okay,
think that's
cool.
all we got, yeah.
Yeah, alright, so why don't we go ahead and wrap up the main portion of this episode here. So, much like in our previous episodes, we're done with this portion of the episode for now, but we are going to keep going, and we're going to go into Q&A time. This is just for you guys that are here live with us right now, because we are going to put this on YouTube later, but once it goes on YouTube, you're not going to get the Q&A segment, so we're going on for an additional half an hour. And please stick with us for the next half hour, and we're just gonna keep talking to you about either the stories that we were already talking about, or if you've got other topics you want to discuss, hey, we're here for that too.
Yes. And of course, during the week, you can always talk to us over on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at Mars Girl.
And that's been this new episode and new season of Beyond the Black Rims. We will see you guys again next episode.
Okay, bye!